Don't confuse paying bills with being part of us. That's what my mother said to me, out loud, in front of the entire family. Her voice didn't shake. Her tone didn't waver. She smiled when she said it, like she'd been waiting years to finally deliver that line. My uncle laughed first, that loud, gut-deep kind of laugh. Then my cousins followed, smirking like it was some inside joke they'd all been in on, except me. My sister didn't even bother to look up from her phone. And my father, he kept chewing, didn't blink, didn't say a word, just ate his meal like nothing had happened. That was the moment everything shifted. No yelling, no plates flying. I didn't storm out or cause a scene. I just sat there, swallowed the silence, and decided I was done. But they had no idea what that really meant. My name is Jack. I'm 36 years old. I live in Boston. I've built a life for myself from the ground up finance director at one of the top firms in the city. I've managed portfolios worth more than $1 billion. I know how to handle risk. I understand leverage. I know what happens when you invest too much in something that gives you nothing in return. What I didn't know, what I had to learn the hard way, is that family can be the most dangerous investment of all. For years, I was the one they leaned on. I paid the bills when someone fell short. I repaired the family cabin when it was on the verge of collapse. I gave my sister rent money when she cried on the phone, swearing it was just for 1 month. I opened credit accounts, lent out my car, and smiled through every thankless holiday meal. And somewhere in my head, I kept thinking, maybe this time, they'll see me. Maybe this year, I'll finally feel like part of them. Maybe I'll get more than a nod and a list of things they need. But I was wrong. So let me take you back to how it started. One dinner, one sentence, one decision that changed everything. It was Thanksgiving weekend. The house smelled like roast turkey, overcooked vegetables, and the faint scent of pumpkin-scented candles Mom always lights to feel festive. We were at my parents' home in the suburbs, big dining table. Too many chairs crammed together. Cousins laughing too loud, plates clattering. I sat near the end of the table. Like always, I wasn't supposed to say anything. That's usually how it goes. I nod along. I pass the potatoes. I listen to my uncle rant about gas prices like he's solving global economics. But that night, something in me cracked. They were talking about the family cabin again. Who would use it for Christmas? Who could host July 4th? And I said just casually, well, since I've been the one handling the maintenance, maybe we should revisit how we're splitting access. I didn't even get to finish the sentence. My mom cut me off, smiling, sharp. Don't confuse paying bills with being part of us. We only keep you around out of pity. Silence, actual silence. Forks paused midair. Even the neighbor, who'd dropped off a pie earlier, was still in the hallway when she said it. He heard it too. Then came the laughter. The kind that stings. The kind that tells you this wasn't spontaneous. This was rehearsed. Planned. She'd been sitting on that line for years, just waiting for the right moment to swing. I looked around the table. My sister still scrolling. My uncle chuckling. My aunt covering her mouth like she wasn't amused. My father chewing. Chewing like my mother had just said something about the weather. That was the real slap, not the sentence. But the silence that followed. No one pushed back. No one said, hey, that's not fair, or Jack's done a lot. No one did anything. It wasn't even the first time I'd felt like a stranger at that table, but it was the first time they said it out loud. I didn't argue. What would have been the point? Instead, I picked up my glass, took a sip of water, and stood up. I didn't say a word. I didn't wait for anyone to stop me, and no one did. I walked out of the house, into the cold air, got into my car, drove with the windows down, letting the wind sting my face, hoping it would drown out the buzzing in my head. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I already knew what I was going to do. This wasn't rage. It wasn't even sadness. It was clarity. You see, they thought they could humiliate me, and I'd come back for more. That I'd keep fixing everything because I'd always done it before. But they forgot something important. I don't just know how to solve problems. I know how to dismantle systems quietly, completely, and without warning. And they were about to learn exactly what that looks like. Before I tell you what happened next, and trust me, you're going to want to hear it, do me a favor. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, if you've ever been used and discarded, if you've ever smiled through a dinner that felt like a performance, then hit that like button, drop a comment below, and make sure to subscribe, because this story isn't over. In fact, it's just getting started. You know what the hardest part is? It's not being excluded. It's not even being used. It's the slow realization that you were never actually in the room to begin with. You were just convenient. A tool, a wallet with a heartbeat. That Thanksgiving night made it clear. But the truth, it had been building for years. Let me take you back a bit before the dinner. Before the cabin sale. Before the chaos. Because if you're going to understand why I walked away from my family, you need to know the roles we each played. Like most families, ours had a system, unspoken, unchallenged, set in stone. My mother was the voice. She controlled the narrative, always loud, always right, always with this polished tone like she was on some talk show, giving advice she never followed herself. My dad, he was quiet. Too quiet. Not soft-spoken, just absent. Like his role in the family was to stay out of the way. Smile when needed. Fade into the background when it got messy. I used to think he was wise. Later, I realized he was just tired. My sister Madison was the favorite. The golden child, the one who could do no wrong, even when she messed up spectacularly. She floated above the consequences, always shielded by excuses. If she failed a class, it was the teacher's fault. If she overspent, it was retail therapy. If she ignored everyone, she was just going through a lot. And me, I was the helper, the fixer, the one they called when something broke. The one who always showed up. The one who paid for things, solved things, absorbed the blame when something didn't go right. It started small. Gas money here. A new phone for Madison when hers got stolen at a party. Helping cover rent just for this month when she lost another job. Then it got bigger. When the family cabin started falling apart, I stepped in. I didn't just fund the repairs, I managed the contractors. Paid for the permits, drove 2 hours every weekend to oversee the work. New roof, new plumbing, foundation repair. Tens of thousands of dollars, all under my name. But the family, they never saw it that way. In their eyes, it was ours. Something we shared. Something they were entitled to. No one ever asked how it got fixed. No one thanked me. They just showed up for their vacations. Posted pictures on Instagram with captions like, "Family getaway," or "Nothing like our cabin." That word started to grind on me. Because it wasn't ours. It was mine. But saying that out loud, That would have been a declaration of war, and I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. So I let it slide, like I always did. Just like when Mom asked for help replacing her washer and dryer. Said the old ones were dead. Said she didn't want anything fancy, just something reliable. I opened a credit account in my name. Bought the machines. Set up autopay. They were supposed to cover it. They didn't. Months passed. Late notices came to me. I paid the minimums just to protect my credit. When I brought it up, Mom said she thought I had that covered. Like it was my job to absorb the cost of their irresponsibility. And still I kept giving. Because part of me believed that if I just gave enough, fixed enough, they'd finally treat me like I mattered. Like I belonged. I told myself I was the strong one. The responsible one. The one who didn't need constant attention to feel loved. But the truth, I was desperate for their approval. Desperate for acknowledgement. Desperate to stop feeling like a guest in my own bloodline. Even my dad's silent, passive dad never once pulled me aside to say, I see what you're doing. I'm proud of you. Nothing. And yet, every time Madison needed rescuing, he showed up, not with money, not with solutions, but with excuses. She's just going through a phase. She's under a lot of pressure. Don't be so hard on her. Funny how those phrases never applied to me. So I stayed quiet, nodded along, played my role, paid my dues, until that dinner, until that moment. Until my mother looked me in the eye and said, we only keep you around out of pity. And everyone stayed silent. That was when it hit me. I wasn't family. I was funding. I was background support. I was useful, not loved. And the worst part, I had let it happen. So when I left that night without a word, without a single tear, they thought it was temporary. A dramatic exit. A little sulk that would blow over. They didn't know I'd already started pulling away long before that. They didn't see the tab I'd been keeping. The receipts I'd saved. The folder I'd built on my laptop labeled closure. They didn't know that while they were laughing at the dinner table. I was about to introduce them to consequences. Real ones. The kind they weren't ready for. But I was, because fixing things, that's what I've always done. They just forgot what happens when I decide to stop. And that right there is where everything begins to unravel. Part 3 is where it gets personal. Because if you thought dinner was awkward, just wait until they realize what happens when their safety net cuts the cord. Stick around. You're not going to want to miss it. When I pulled into my driveway that night after Thanksgiving, the air felt different. Still. Heavy. Like something had been set in motion and couldn't be taken back. I didn't cry. I didn't rant. I just sat in the car, hands on the wheel, staring at the garage door like it held all the answers. Then I got out, walked inside, and opened my laptop. There it was something I'd started months ago, but never followed through on. A real estate listing. For the family cabin. The one they posted on Instagram like it was some kind of legacy. The one I paid for. Maintained. Saved. My name was the only one on the deed. They loved that place. 4th of July parties, New Year's weekends, fall leaf trips. Our cabin, they called it. But it had never been ours. It had always been mine. I stared at that draft listing for a long minute. Then I clicked publish. Just like that, it was live. No warning, no discussion, no family vote. And the feeling I got. Not guilt, not doubt, relief. For the first time, I took something back. 5 days later, it sold. All cash. No counteroffer. Just gone. That was only the beginning. Because when you've spent your life being their backup plan, and suddenly you're not, the panic starts to show. Next, I went after the credit account, the one I'd opened to buy Mom the washer and dryer. The one she promised she'd pay back. She didn't. So I logged in, locked the account, canceled auto pay, and shut it down. Let the bank chase them now. Then I tackled the digital perks. Amazon Prime canceled. Netflix gone. They'd been piggybacking off my accounts for years. Free shipping, free streaming, acting like it was part of some family plan. It wasn't. I called customer support, reported unauthorized usage, and wiped the household clean. New passwords, new settings, new boundaries. That night, my phone started buzzing. The group chat lit up like a bonfire. Who messed with Prime? I was literally in the middle of a show. Did someone cancel the cabin schedule I had that weekend booked? Then 3 question marks from Mom. Just no one said my name. Of course they didn't. They weren't worried about me. They were just confused that their free ride hit a wall. One cousin dropped a sarcastic message, "Guess the universe is glitching." Another cabin better not be sold. Already invited friends for July? I leaned back on the couch, scrolled through the chaos, and didn't say a word. Watching them panic was better than any argument I could have had. Then, at almost 10 that night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I wouldn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Hi, this is Jennifer Parker. I represent your mother and father in some ongoing family matters. I was hoping we could talk." Her tone was professional, polished, like she was used to smoothing out messes. I didn't speak, just listened. She continued, "Your father would like to reclaim the vehicle he gifted you 2 years ago. He plans to transfer the title to a colleague of mine. I understand it was given as a present, but he's requesting it back immediately." I almost laughed. The car, after the cabin, after the accounts. They wanted the car, not because they needed it, because they needed control. I didn't argue. I just asked, when and where. She seemed surprised, stumbled a little, then gave me a time and their address. "I'll be there," I said, and hung up. No emotion, no resistance. That was the difference now. I wasn't begging to be understood. I wasn't hoping they'd see the light. I was done. When people show you exactly how little you matter to them, the only thing left to do is take back everything they think they own. And that was just phase 1. The truth is, I didn't want revenge in the way people usually imagine it, loud, dramatic, burning bridges. I wanted clarity. I wanted peace. But the only way to get that was to dismantle every string they still had wrapped around me, one by one. The cabin was the beginning. The accounts were the follow-up. The car, that was personal. Because giving something back when you're asked politely is one thing, but returning it after being insulted, laughed at, dismissed, that's closure, and it was coming fast. The next morning, I got up early, not to detail the car, not to make it nice for them. I was pulling my life out of it, cords, documents, old receipts, sunglasses I'd forgotten in the side pocket. Each item reminded me of the ways I'd used that car to help them. Groceries for Mom, appointments for Dad, emergency drives for Madison. They'd used it all. Now they could have it back. I pulled into their driveway at exactly 1 o'clock. The same driveway I used to shovel in the winters. The same hedges that never got trimmed right. And there they were, Mom at the door, Dad standing behind her, arms crossed like a statue. My sister on the couch, scrolling her phone, wearing the hoodie I bought her last Christmas. Perfect. I held out the keys. "Here, lawyer said you wanted the car." Mom blinked. Then the performance started. We need to talk. This has gone too far. You don't get to pull stunts like this with family. I didn't step inside. I stayed on the porch. I'm not interested in talking. I said, I'm not angry. I'm finished. That was when Madison jumped in, acting like she cared. Mom didn't mean it at dinner. You're tearing the family apart over one comment. I could have asked her when she ever defended me, when she ever said thank you, when she ever showed up. But I didn't. I set the keys on the porch railing. Car's here. We're done. And I walked away. No one followed. No one called out. Not even my dad. And for the first time in my entire life, that silence felt like freedom. Part 4. That's when things shift from reaction to strategy. Because once I stopped giving, I started planning. And the next move, it hit them harder than anything they saw coming. By the time I got back home from returning the car, I felt lighter. Not happy, not proud. Just lighter. Like I'd finally dropped something I'd been dragging around for years. But the silence that followed, that was the real gift. No more calls, no more demands, just peace. For a few days, until I opened my bank app. That's when I saw it. The recurring transfer? $900 every month. I'd been sending it to Madison for almost a year. She told me she lost her job. Said it was temporary. Said she'd pay me back. She never did. The first month, she posted a photo on Instagram wearing a brand new pair of designer boots with the caption, "Retail Therapy." I should have stopped it then, but I didn't. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Again and again. Now, I opened the app, found the transfer, and canceled it. That was it. No warning, no explanation. And right on cue, my phone started lighting up. 10 missed calls, voicemails, messages, each one angrier than the last. You can't just cut me off like this. I'll lose everything if you don't step up. This has nothing to do with what Mom said. Don't drag me into it. Unbelievable. After everything I'd done, this was her response. No apology, no accountability, just guilt, just pressure. Same script, new day. So I ignored it, muted the chat, turned my phone face down. And I waited, because I knew the wave was coming. Madison couldn't handle being ignored, and she didn't disappoint. The next morning, she posted on Facebook a long, dramatic status filled with vague shots at a toxic sibling who pretended to help just to control people. She didn't use my name. She didn't have to. The comment section filled up fast. You deserve better. Protect your peace, Queen. Cut off the ones who hold you back. One of her friends even tagged me by mistake, thinking it would stir something up. I didn't reply. Didn't take the bait. Just took screenshots. Receipts. Proof of how she rewrote the story to fit her audience. And then, quietly, I kept going. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about clarity. About finally seeing things for what they were. And it turns out, I wasn't the only one. 3 days later, the family group chat still simmering from all the chaos lit up again. But this time, it wasn't from Madison. It was from my father. Just one message, one sentence. I'm serious. Anyone not living here will lose the right to come into this house if this behavior continues. That was it. No emojis, no context, no small talk, just a boundary. And coming from him, that hit different. My father never sent texts. He barely used his phone. I honestly thought he'd forgotten how. So for him to suddenly drop a bomb like that into the family chat, that wasn't frustration. That was a warning. Everyone felt it. Madison fired back almost instantly. What does that even mean, FYI? I live there now. And just like that, it slipped out. She hadn't told anyone. But now it was obvious. She'd moved back in with our parents. Her blurry Instagram shots in Mom's kitchen. The couch in the background. The coffee mug with the family crest. It all made sense. She wasn't just crashing. She'd taken over. And Dad, he'd had enough. But Mom, she did what she always did. She jumped in like the family therapist no one asked for. Long paragraph. Talked about healing, growth, and how we've lost sight of what's important. I could almost hear her voice as I read it. But the tone was different this time. It felt desperate. Then came the cousins. Guys, let's not make this worse. This family's falling apart. Even my uncle sent his usual dramatic one-liner. This is what happens when loyalty dies. That one made me laugh. Loyalty. From the man who laughed the hardest when Mom humiliated me. Please. But the difference now, no one piled on. No one attacked. Because Dad's message had shut it down. And behind the scenes, he was doing more than texting. I found out from my cousin Chris. He called me out of the blue. Hey, Madison showed up at our place last night. Bags and all. Said your dad kicked her out. I didn't say anything. Just leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. It was happening. The same man who stood silent at that dinner table was finally pushing back. And he wasn't done. Later that week, I got a bank alert. Termination of joint account authorization. Dad had removed Mom from one of their shared accounts. The one I helped him set up years ago when she kept forgetting to pay bills. I shouldn't have been notified. But he never updated the contact info. Then came more alerts. Utility account changes. Canceled insurance payments. All in her name. He was pulling her access. Quietly. Methodically. Just like I had. And then came her voicemail. No sweetness. No fake calm. Just anger. Your father's being ridiculous. He's tearing this family apart. This is his mess. Not mine. That line, not mine, told me everything. The alliance was cracking. They were no longer a united front. And I wasn't part of the chaos anymore. I was just watching it unfold from a distance. That night, I sat on my balcony with a drink in hand. The sky was quiet. No texts, no calls, no drama. And I realized something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real peace. Not the kind you get from silence between battles, but the kind that comes when you finally stop showing up to the war. And the best part, the story wasn't over yet. Because what came next? That was when everything truly unraveled. You'd think after all that, they'd back off after the car was returned, after the rent payments stopped, after Dad kicked Madison out and stripped Mom of her access. You'd think they'd finally reflect, apologize, or at least stay quiet. But no, when manipulators lose control, they don't reflect. They double down. And that's exactly what happened. 2 mornings later, Madison started calling me again, over and over. I didn't answer. Then came the voicemail. Her tone was fake calm, like she was holding back panic. Look, I know things are tense. But can we talk? This has gotten out of hand. Dad's message freaked everyone out. Mom's on edge. The house feels weird. Just, can we meet? Then the pause. And the real reason she called. Also, I know you stopped the rent. That's why I'm staying here again. Could you just cover July, just this one last time? I promise. After that, I'll handle it. One last time. The same line she used in February, and March, and April. Every time, there was a new excuse, a new promise, a new emotional plea. I didn't call back. She tried again that night, this time. A text. You're really going to leave me hanging all over one comment at brunch? Grow up. Funny, isn't it? How they always try to shrink your pain into something small. One comment, one slip. Like it wasn't the most honest thing my mother ever said. Like it wasn't the truth finally escaping her mouth, dressed as cruelty. Still, I said nothing. And that silence, it drove them insane. By the next day, the guilt campaign had expanded. A cousin messaged me privately. "Hey, what's going on? Everyone's acting like someone died. Can't you just talk to them?" Then my uncle. He sent a voice note. Didn't even play the whole thing. Got to the line. "Family's all we have." Before I deleted it. This was the same man who laughed the hardest when Mom humiliated me. He didn't get to lecture me about loyalty. Then my aunt stepped in. She's always played the peacemaker. Thinks she's some emotional guru because she watches daytime talk shows and reposts mindfulness quotes. I picked up out of curiosity. "Sweetie," she began, "I just wanted to check on you. I hate seeing the family divided like this. Your mom's really hurting." I cut her off. "Did she tell you what she said to me at dinner?" Silence. Then a stammer. "Well, people say things in the heat of the moment." "No," I said, flat. "She meant it. She wanted me to hear it. And you laughed, didn't you?" Another silence. I think it was just uncomfortable. People laugh when they're nervous, right? Nervous laughter sounds exactly like amusement. Click. I hung up. Didn't wait for the usual. "We're all family" speech. I'd heard it too many times. By that evening, the group chat exploded again. But this time, Madison went nuclear. She posted a Facebook rant. Huge caption. Full of half-truths and dramatics. Toxic families are the worst. Some people pretend to help just so they can control you later. When you finally set boundaries, they abandon you. They'd rather watch you fail than see you succeed. No names, but everyone knew. The comments rolled in fast. "You don't need that kind of negativity. You're better off without them. Cut the cord, sis." And then someone tagged me. Accidentally, publicly. A friend of hers who didn't realize how obvious the post was. I didn't respond. Just took another screenshot. Filed it in the folder I'd been keeping. The one labeled closure. Because this wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. It was about having proof, evidence. So when they spun their stories later, I'd have the truth. Then just when I thought the noise might finally die down, another notification from Dad. Second message in the group chat. This time, even colder than the first. "I told you all to stop. I've been clear. Keep it up, and you'll find yourselves without a house." That was it. No soft edges. No confusion. Just a hard line in the sand. And this time, no one dared reply. Not Madison. Not Mom. Not even the dramatic cousins. The chat went dead. And it stayed that way. That night, I sat back and realized something I never thought I'd say. Maybe my dad wasn't just a passive observer all these years. Maybe he was taking it all in. The lies, the manipulation, the performances. Maybe that dinner didn't just break me. Maybe it broke him too. Meanwhile, Madison kept spiraling. Chris, my cousin, the only one with common sense, texted me a few days later. "Saw Madison last night. She's crashing on another friend's couch, telling different versions of the story to everyone. Classic. Play the victim in one room, play the hero in the next." But I didn't care, because for the first time, I wasn't chasing the narrative. I wasn't defending myself. I wasn't even checking the group chat anymore. I was just living. Eating meals I cooked for myself. Sleeping through the night without waking up in a cold sweat from imaginary arguments. Going to work and actually focusing. No texts buzzing in my pocket. No fake emergencies. Just space. Then, one evening, I got home and saw something I wasn't expecting. Mom, standing outside my apartment building, arms crossed, jaw tight. She hadn't called, hadn't texted. She just showed up. "We need to talk," she said. "No," I replied, unlocking the door. "You can't keep ignoring us." I turned. "Watch me." I stepped inside. She didn't follow. A minute later, the front door slammed behind her, and that was the last time I saw her in person. Because after that, I went nuclear too, but not with drama, with precision. I started cleaning house. Digitally, financially, emotionally. Old shared logins deleted. Auto-pays connected to their addresses canceled. Everything that linked me to their chaos cut. And when Saturday came, I rented a car, got in, and drove. No destination, no plans. Just road, just me. And peace. Because what they never realized was this: the quiet version of me, the version that stayed helpful and silent, that was the version they could use. But once I stopped asking for a seat at their table, I built my own, and I made damn sure they'd never be invited. Next, part 6. The fallout, the shift in power, and the one letter that changed everything. The silence after Dad's second warning lasted longer than anyone expected. Not just quiet, dead quiet. 3 full days, no texts, no memes, no guilt trips, no blurry photos of family dinners trying to prove things were fine. It was like everyone had taken a collective breath and finally realized the air had changed. And then Chris called again. "Hey," he said, low voice, like he didn't even want to say it out loud. "Your sister's not at the house anymore. She showed up at ours last night with her bags, crying." I didn't respond right away. He continued. "Said your dad told her to leave, or he'd start throwing her stuff out. My wife's not thrilled. We don't have the space. Just figured you should know." I thanked him and hung up. I sat there for a while after that, just letting it settle. Dad actually did it. He kicked her out. The same man who always had excuses, always looked away, always chose silence. He had finally reached his limit. And apparently, he wasn't done. Because an hour later, I got an email alert from my bank. Termination of joint account authorization. Dad had removed Mom from the account I helped him set up years ago. The one she abused, overdrafted, and forgot existed until it needed fixing. Then came more. Another alert utility account change. Then a cancellation on the insurance tied to the house. All in her name. He was unraveling her control. Quietly. Without warning. The same way I had. Later that night, she called me. No fake sweetness this time. Just raw bitterness. "Your father's being ridiculous. He's dragging this family down. Go talk some sense into him. This is his mess, not mine." Her voice cracked on the word his. That told me everything. She wasn't defending him anymore. She wasn't protecting the illusion. She was angry because she'd been cut out. Because control was slipping through her fingers. And for once, I wasn't the one she could use to fix it. That night, I sat out on my balcony again. The city buzzed below me. Cars moving like tiny stars across the streetlights. And I felt something unfamiliar. Not just peace, not just relief. I felt finished. Like the book had closed and no one even noticed the last page had turned. My phone stayed quiet. The group chat remained dark. Chris texted once, a few days later. Said Madison was bouncing between couches, telling different stories depending on who she thought would listen. In one version, I was the villain. In another, she was just misunderstood. But I didn't care anymore. Because I wasn't in the story. I wasn't in their chaos. I wasn't trying to correct the narrative, prove my side, or defend my choices. I was free. And with that freedom came clarity. I didn't need their apology. I didn't need their approval. I didn't even need closure from them. Because the person who gave me that was the one I least expected. 2 weeks after everything fell apart, I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name on the front. The handwriting, my father's. Inside, just a few short lines. No fluff, no guilt, no excuses. Jack, you were right to leave. I stayed silent too long and let things spiral. You don't owe anyone anything. You never did. Whatever peace you found, keep it. Dad. I read it 3 times, then folded it carefully and placed it in the drawer where I keep the things that remind me of who I really am. That letter, it didn't fix the past, but it told me something I never thought I'd hear from him. He saw me. He finally saw me. And that was enough. Not for a reunion, not for forgiveness, but for closure. Next, the final chapter. The healing, the truth, and the choice I made to never go back after I read Dad's letter. I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. I just breathed. Deep, slow, like I hadn't done it in years. That weekend, I packed a small bag, turned off my notifications, rented a cabin near Flagstaff, and drove. No plans, no people, no noise. The first few days felt strange, too quiet. My body kept waiting for my phone to buzz, for someone to pull me back in. But the silence held, and slowly, the weight began to lift. I made coffee each morning and drank it on the porch. I walked in the woods without checking the time. I ate meals I actually enjoyed, not ones that came from guilt. I watched the sky change colors every evening and let it remind me that the world doesn't need drama to be beautiful. By the 7th day, I turned off my phone completely. I stopped waiting for closure from people who never gave me peace in the first place. Because here's the truth, walking away isn't failure. It's power. It's choosing peace over performance. It's refusing to play a role just because someone else wrote the script. They can keep spinning their versions of the story. I'm not part of it anymore. I have a new story now, one where I'm not the fixer or the fallback or the fool. I'm the author. And I chose the ending. So if you've ever been the one holding everyone together, if you've ever been the silent strength in a room full of takers, let me tell you something. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to build a life without them. And you're allowed to protect your peace ruthlessly, unapologetically. Because sometimes, the best revenge is peace. If this story hit home for you, leave a comment, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. You never know who needs to hear it. Thanks for listening. And remember, silence isn't weakness. It's healing.